Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, at Haggerty10 Twitter handle, and I'm joined today by Sean Martin, at Sean Martin TCW on the Twitter handle. Good morning, Sean. How are you doing? Good.
Oops, sorry, freezing, Tony. Feel like Jack Frost.
Freezing? Oh, is it the Riviera snowbound, is it?
Aye, yeah.
It's East Kilbride usually gets it, but it's not too bad. A slight smattering of snow, I think you would say. But I'm not John Ketley, and I'm not aware.
They'll have your STV news in no time.
Yes, indeed. There we go. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's getting colder. Let's put it that way. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. First and foremost, we do housekeeping every day, so I'll just direct you to the ticker tape running along the bottom. And as we do every day, and we thank everybody that has done this already, you can subscribe to the Celtic Way and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love, and it will cost you £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything that we write on the website. There's always something there for everybody, and it's always for the click of a button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And as we say every day, we say thank you to our sponsors, SENECA, and the Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And as you all know, SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. We say thank you to them. So good morning, everybody. And Sean, you were absent yesterday. So just wanted to, first and foremost, before we talk about other things, just wanted to get your take on the Hearts game on Saturday and how you enjoyed it.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, Tony. Aye. I thought it was a really, really good display. I thought we said it at the time, it was the most difficult draw outside Ibrox. And I think they made a mockery of that from the first few seconds, from the first attack, scoring in the opening minutes, which I think Aaron Moyes' finish is going a wee bit under the radar because it was quite a difficult one to finish. Weaker foot, ball flashed. It was a good ball in, but it was still everything to do with the finish, I think. And then the other goals were up there. Alistair Johnston had another good game, I thought. He supplied that Kyogo flicked finish, which I see people are comparing to David Villa, but there's a long list of flicked finishes like that I think he's leaned on to get to that stage. But what a finish, and what a ball in as well. Because I think if you have seen it yesterday, it would have been after the briefing, so you wouldn't have been able to mention it. But Stuart Ross's post-match analysis was all to do with Alistair Johnston's performance, and I think it was kind of reinforcing the perception that we've had on here the last couple of weeks, which is played a lot of football, but even in the span of 8 or 9 games, 10 games, you can see the progress that he's made in terms of embracing the inverted fullback role, and none more so than that Kyogo goal, choosing his crosses better. He chose to drill that in. He chose to put it into the Kyogo area. And I don't think it's a coincidence. He's improving all the time. And it's worth a read. If you didn't read it yesterday, it's still up there.
Ralston-esque, Sean, you saying there?
Yeah,
yeah, so like everybody, you're purring over the performance. They played very well, didn't they? Let's be honest. And you said they're at the top of your discussion that they made a mockery of that supposedly hard draw, and they did to book themselves a semi-final spot. Now, Sean, Aiden's got his wish.
Aiden has got his wish.
Colin Hendry duly delivered. Picked out Rangers and Celtic last night, Inverness and Falkirk the other semi-final. So Celtic will have to play Rangers at Hampden again in order to reach the final. And when's the semi-final, guys?
29th and 30th of April. It will be one of those days. There's a lot of chat because, as usual, like for instance, when the draw was made for the Tynecastle one in the last round, you were kind of looking what else might be on. Scotland Rugby was on, that kind of thing. And there's a kilt walk in Glasgow on the Sunday, so there's every chance it's the Saturday for that reason, because roads are shut and all sorts in Glasgow for the kilt walk. So it probably makes sense it would be the Saturday, but it's not confirmed yet, so I wouldn't go booking anything.
Might be an early one or a later one, and Sean could be a 12:30 or 5:15 or something. Like to do that, don't they?
I'm not sure yet, but it will not take long for that to be confirmed, I wouldn't think. But it's that weekend anyway, and it's looking quite likely it will be the Saturday. So
Indeed. Now, Sean, what were your thoughts on the draw? Did you want Rangers? Were you not caring? Would you prefer them in the final? Should Celtic be able to negotiate a semi-final against either Inverness or Falkirk? What was your thoughts on that?
I was not that fussed either way, I suppose, because I think, and you're often fond of saying that you need to play these teams at some point, usually. Yes. I suppose there's an element, and me and you and Aidan as well actually mentioned this in the group chat. Given one of the other teams were Inverness, Carly Thistle, there was an element of that sticking in your mind as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as Aidan called it, and I believe he's wanted to write a piece on it, Ronnie Dyler's ghost treble. The Inverness, Josh Meekings in particular, and the officials that day obviously paid to with the handball from the Lee Griffiths header. So there's not that you're harbouring any grudges, story, but there was that element to it. So I think if I was asked, as much as it might have been a harder route in a way, I would have quite liked Inverness in the semi again, and then Rangers in the final, and obviously win the final with another derby final. Because realistically, right, I'm already thinking big picture here, and I know I shouldn't, and Ange Postecoglou would be shaking his head going, you go one at a time. But realistically, if Celtic hold on to this lead or increase their lead in the Premiership, they've already got a League Cup in the bag. They can't go unbeaten, right? They can't go invincible in domestic competitions. But by God, Tony, see if they win all three, having beat Rangers in both finals.
Yes,
I'm like that. That takes real some beat. So I would have liked it for that reason. Ultimately, it was a semi-final, and you're probably about to say it, and I would agree with you that you need to play these teams at some point if you want to win trophies. So it doesn't really matter what round it is.
Come, Sean, dredging up the Celtic Inverness Carly Thistle defeat semi-final. Ronnie Dyler's ghost treble. Just the 6 officials missed the Josh Meekings handball that day, because there was 2 on the line, wasn't there, as well as the 4, the 3 in the middle, and the 4th official. So yeah,
50,000 saw it in the stands, though. That's the thing. So
yeah, I mean, but like the Murphys, we're not bitter about that. Honest mistake, Sean. These things happen. Come on now. Come on, behave. Get over it. It's fine. We've moved on. Inverness have knocked Celtic out the cup 3 times in 23 years. Well aware of that, Steve. You be careful what you wish for, don't you, at times. But yes,
they'll just need to get the revenge in the final, Tony. I suppose that's all I'll say. But in terms of not necessarily semi-finals, but in terms of cup derbies, Tony, I had a wee look quickly before we come on there, and obviously the most recent one was a League Cup final there. But since Rangers went bust and all that, and come back and started again 2012, they've met in the Scottish Cup 5 times, and Celtic have actually won 2 and lost 3. So they've got a losing record against Rangers in the Scottish Cup since 2012. But what's up?
I think my dog walker has came to the door, and I've locked the door.
Right, go and get it. I'll tell everybody what my stats are while you get it.
Oh, and my apologies for that. He's going mental, so that's the noise.
No, no worries. Right, as I was saying, Scottish Cup 1-2, lost 3 of the 5 since 2012. But the caveat to that being, 1 was after extra time and 1 was in penalties. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, if you get beat, you get beat. But I still think it means something when it's that close a game. Whereas with the League Cup, they've played 4 and won all 4 between the teams since that 2012 reformation. So I think for when Tony comes back, and you can get your questions in for this, guys, but does that mean anything? Is basically what I was about to ask Tony. Does that mean anything to you, the previous derbies, or is it only really since Ange Postecoglou came in? You hear that, Tony? No?
I did, and we're back in the room.
We're absolutely slagging you.
Were you doing your statistical equivalent of elevator music while I was gone? Yeah.
Aye, that's it.
My apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. I'd locked the door and the dogs were going a bit tonto, so I don't like doing that. So there you go.
No, fair enough, Tony. I was just saying, you heard the start. It just Scottish Cup since 2012, played 5 against Rangers, 1-2, lost 3. But the 2 of the 3 that they've lost, 1 was after extra time and 1 was in penalties. And I was saying to the guys that basically, how much do you read into the previous games? Does it only matter what's happened under Ange Postecoglou? Does it not matter at all? And with those 2 games that I highlighted, I think it is worth a caveat, because how close those games were matters. It was coin flip games.
Yeah, without a doubt. And also, statistics can be manipulated to suit your agenda, can't they? You take what you want from them. Yes, Celtic's record in Scottish Cup semi-finals recently against Rangers isn't great. We are aware of that. But I think if you can't take confidence from beating your rivals in a final, as you said, and then you were talking about earlier that you would have felt confident playing them in the final, and you would like to have done that, in order to win a domestic treble by beating your rivals in a final twice if it came to pass. But I'm of the opinion you have to play them at some point. And I also, the manager always says, and I said it on Saturday when I wrote the colour piece, but that the Celtic were going to burst through the finishing line, the tape, and Ange Postecoglou knows at this end of the season, this team are going to get stronger and better. And if they're going to get stronger and better, then they won the League Cup final playing very well, scored 2 wonderful goals, could have scored more. I'm quite confident that if they get stronger and better, that they'll be able to beat Rangers in the semi-final. Yeah, you look at the last couple of semi-finals, as you say, coin flips, they were close. I don't put much stock in them. I think you live in the here and now. And
Speaking of the here and now, Tony, I think Andrew Galea can hear you a wee bit out of breath there. He says, perhaps you should walk your own dog, Tony. You're over 50 now.
Indeed. I do walk my own dog. I have dog walkers on various days because they come at this time.
What's the step with you guys?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's, indeed. Tony's dog is going red, indeed.
There's a couple of comments here just saying, Marky, 2 derbies in April, is it? Yes, it will be then. And that will be 6 in total this season, Tony.
Yeah.
Which my pal pointed out to me very quickly last night after that draw, that when you think about it, and it's just a wee quirk of the scheduling from that year, but it's still not as many as what Neil Lennon had to contend with in his first full season in the job, 2010, 2011. 7 derbies he had that year. Yeah.
Because they played them, 4 in the league?
And both cups, but with a replay in the cup as well.
A replay in the cup, yeah. That's right, yeah. That was the Mark Wilson winner, wasn't it?
Yes, the Sasa Papac's concussion one.
Yeah, that's right. They went to replay that because the original was the original Brunei game, wasn't it? With El Hadji Diouf at Ibrox.
I think so. Aye.
Yeah, 2 each draw. Brunei scored, and then that was a replay from that. Yes, indeed. Listen, I'm always. I said on Monday with Aidan, most of the fans wanted this show. Yeah, Joe, I want Rangers in every draw because you're going to have to play them at some point. And if you're going to be disappointed, and I'd rather be disappointed in an earlier round if that's the case. And also, I think there's no worse feeling than losing a final to your rivals. Now, so I think I've always had this debate with my dad. He never wants to play Rangers in any competition if it can be avoided, someone knock them out or whatever. But I'm just like, yeah, and I don't care if it's Ibrox, Parkhead or Hampden. These games take care of themselves, and I think there's an air of confidence about Celtic at this minute in time. And as I said earlier, there's an air of confidence in the fact that the manager's telling you they're going to get stronger and better, and they really are going to. This is the business end, and they're going for it now. Sam Hartley there saying Celtic at a higher level of football, but you never rule Rangers out. Never have, never will rule Rangers out. It's a cracking semi-final. Sponsors probably wanted it for the final, Sean.
They would have, because think about it. I know Premier Sports switched to Viaplay for this season, and this is their first season. But you can't, from their point of view anyway, you couldn't have had it any better if you get a League Cup final that's a derby and a Scottish Cup final that's a derby. So they would have wanted it for the showpiece. In terms of fans, as I've told you where I stand on it, Aidan was unequivocal. He wanted Rangers in the semi. He thinks that is the best case scenario, and he will be doing a newsletter to that effect tonight, Tony, from what I hear. So yeah.
He's made a rod for his own back on that one, has young Aidan. He's probably typing it as we speak, Sean.
Yeah, frantically.
Frantically, yes, indeed. But no, I was delighted with the draw. Didn't shout or cheer. Sons of Scotland, if Celtic turn up, they will beat them. And I based that on, and I've said before, this is not arrogance. You're basing it on the way Celtic are playing. Saturday was meant to be the one where the treble buster. Lots of people had it in their head that Hearts were, and they never got a chance to turn up because Celtic turned up. And from the moment Aaron Moy scored, that result was never in any doubt. It certainly was in my mind. And, when Celtic play like that, the manager's fond of using the phrase, they're hard to stop. And they are hard to stop. And bring their brand of football to the table, which they did on Saturday in abundance. And you trust this group of players and on any occasion and at any time, because he says they always find the answers and the solutions.
I know Rangers, that. Sorry, on you go.
Rangers will be. They'll, I think, in terms of when Celtic were not using the word revenge for last season's semi-final defeat, I think there'll be an air of revenge in Rangers' minds for the cup final defeat, because a lot of the players haven't stopped talking about it since it's happened. You hear them, and
to be fair, Tony, can you blame them? Their manager hasn't stopped talking about Celtic since he took the job. So,
but you know what I mean, and I think it's hurt them. So this semi-final is not a given by any stretch, and there's a lot of Celtic supporters saying, Celtic are going to win 3-0 and 4. I've never ever thought like that. You're playing Rangers in a national semi-final. It's Rangers' season on the line in 90 minutes, more or less.
Yeah,
because you have to say it's, so. But you've also got, we'll say an irresistible force meeting an immovable object type thing. Celtic are going for a treble under Ange Postecoglou. And although they're not talking about it, you bet your bottom dollar they'll be talking about it in that dressing room. Ange Postecoglou will want to win the domestic treble. He'll want to win the lot. And it's get the makings and the ingredients for a classic football match, one way or the other. But I think Celtic are at the stage now where they can handle it. Whatever Rangers throw at them, I think they can handle.
So Celtic play Rangers on the 8th. Is that right?
Yes.
The 8th of April. So 3 weeks later, they play them in the cup. And Beach Boys, I'm going to put this comment up just to ask you what your thoughts on. Do you think that there is a psychological advantage for that semi-final can be had in that game at Parkhead on the 8th? Because Peach Boy says that he thinks it's a good thing because Celtic have got a chance to give them a lesson at Celtic Park on the 8th of April. That means that they might turn up for that semi-final expected to get beat. Do you put any stock in psychological shots across the bow a couple of weeks prior? Despite the fact what Ange Postecoglou will say again, which is that they're totally different games and totally different stadiums and all that. But do you think that do you think Beach Boys has got a point here?
Either or side can lay down a wee marker for Hampden, can't they? The smart money says Celtic will win at Celtic Park because Rangers will only have 800 tickets. Is that right?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Again, a creation of Rangers doing.
Yep.
And they've suffered because of it. And they've suffered quite badly. 3-0 and 4-0 Cannons they've had without the backing of their supporters there. So, again, you go back to be careful what you wish for. Now, lots of Celtic supporters are thinking it'll be the same again. It might not. I don't read too much into it, but I know by that point Celtic will be trying to extend that lead at the top if all goes to plan to 12 and make it more or less a procession and a formality to the title. Do you see Celtic losing
at Parkhead? No.
Parkhead against Rangers with the backing of that front and the way that it has gone a couple of times. Scott McGill's right. Yeah, you take it one game at a time, and I get all that, but people are focusing on this kind of double header in April, if you like to say, although they're kind of a couple of weeks apart. But I think Celtic can inflict a psychological blow on Rangers. But again, if you do that, it's the whole wounded animal then that turns up at Hampden.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. And
I can see it both ways.
Revenge is in the air, all that kind of stuff. So
I think Antonios gets it right here, which is something we've been saying for months, and I think most people subscribe to this. He says what the Viaplay Cup final proof for him was that it's in Celtic's hands. If Celtic play at the top of their game, there will be too much to handle and Rangers can't stop them. I think, and we've said this plenty of times, that is a truth to me, that if this Celtic team play their football to the level that they can, then there is no domestic opponent that is good enough to beat them. No. It's not a given that they will always do that, because as Postecoglou himself, even when they win, sometimes he comes out after it and says a bit sloppy with the passing, or finishing wasn't there, or there wasn't runs into the box enough, or we weren't finding Kyogo enough, or something like that. So it's not always that they will. It's not always a given that they will do that. But if they do that, I think it's just a truth that there is no team in Scotland can cope with.
Yeah, of course. Brown Warrior comes in. Here's Sean. How many Celtic players will be touted for big moves in summer before a ball is kicked at Hampden? All of them. Right, all of them. You know that. It's in the post. You deal with it. You move on. You deal with it, and you handle it with the grace and dignity the way the manager has handled it. Pay no attention to it. It doesn't register on his radar, does it, Sean?
No, it does not.
If we can keep
Tina O'Connor saying if we can keep our game winners fit with the right squad rotation for the remainder, she's got confidence in their own ability. I agree with that. The thing I would point out there when you're saying game winners, who pops into your head? Because there's about 6 people pop into my head, and it's the same as when I was saying about this player of the year race. I really think it's one of the most difficult to call, and I know that Kyogo's goal tally might seem get over the line, but I genuinely think you could say that there's five or six Celtic players that deserve to be in that conversation. So game winners, I still think that's about half of the outfielders in any given 11.
Well, if you're going to compare it with Rangers team, Celtic have got 6 or 7 game changers and game winners in their team. You look at the cup final, Kyogo was the difference between the teams. Aaron Moy, potential game winner. Jota, potential game winner. Maeda, Haksabanovic could have scored. Matt O'Reilly could have scored. There's 6 players, right? So Rio Hatate had an excellent game as well. There's 7, right? So you're talking about game changers and game winners and people that can influence a game, and I never even mentioned Callum McGregor. So that's 8, right, off the top of your head. That's more or less all of the Celtic team. I can't say that about the Rangers team, which is why Katrina O'Connor, yourself, myself, lots of the commenters feel there's a confidence in Celtic's ability. A couple of players that could come off the bench as well, like Abada, guys like that, who have been game winners against Rangers. So, it's that strength and depth that we bang on about. This is where the game's where it matters. When you see your game winners and your game changers and guys that can influence a football match. And I think at this moment in time, Celtic have more of them in their squad, their whole squad, than Rangers do. That's a fact.
I agree with that. No, I do agree with that. And I was thinking 2018, was it? Was it 20? I think it was 2018 because David Ferguson's just saying here, do we think they were jumping for joy after the draw last night? And I think it was 2018, if I'm remembering right, the Graham Murray team.
Yes.
That were delighted and celebrating in the dressing room with the Scottish Cup semi-final draw. I think it was 2018, and then if it was, that was a 4-0 win for Celtic, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, you saw
that's what David Ferguson's referencing there, I think.
Yeah, you saw the footage from, I think it was various bars, wasn't it? But I think Graham Murty said that the players were delighted to draw.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah, as well. And I remember thinking at the time, why would you offer that up? That's something you would have kept in house. And I just felt it was I felt at the time it was unwise, and Celtic duly turned them over 4-0. Dembele, I think that was the dink, the Dembele dink, wasn't it?
I think it was almost. I hesitate to use the phrase because it might be taken wrongly, but it was a rookie manager at the time, maybe just letting his mouth go.
Yeah, possibly, Sean. Yeah.
Which, and again, don't mean to take us the wrong way, but which we've already seen in Michael Beale at the moment. So I don't know. There's no such talk of that this time. I don't think you will hear that at the moment, especially just a couple of weeks after a cup final defeat. But certainly at the time with the Graham Murray thing, I think that's basically what it was.
And I think there'll be a lot of gum bumping before the two teams meet both at
Tony, I told you when we walked out of Hampden after the final that at some point before the next meeting, the narrative would be changed, skewed slightly, so that game becomes a coin flip game and that game becomes a really, really close game rather than the reality that Rangers were only really the better team for about 12 minutes, as Callum McGregor said after it. But that I thought that then, and I think it now that it's the semi-final as well. So,
of course, yeah, but I mean, having watched it back in its entirety, I don't know why I was worried at the time when I was sitting beside you at Hampden. But that you can sort of see how your your vision can get skewed by what you think you're seeing when you're there. Rangers had some territorial pressure, but Joe Hart never had a save to make.
I was actually having that conversation with Ian Scott that won the competition for the tickets for that game. He says to me that what I'd say is after it about it being like a boxing match where sometimes you get swayed thinking a punch has landed because of the crowd's reaction rather than what actually happened, which is it might have skiffed past, it might have hit the shoulder and rolled away. You can get that in a football game as well. You get influenced to think something was a lot more dangerous than what it was just because of the crowd's reaction. And he was saying it was similar that day that when he watched it back, he was surprised at just how little pressure there was actually from Rangers out with that kind of 10-minute spell. And that's what I'm saying. I think that you will find the narrative gets skewed a wee bit as that game gets closer and as the next derby gets closer, but specifically the semi-final with it being at Hampden. But for me, the reality was it wasn't a coin flip game. So
no, it wasn't at all. I say when I watched it back, Andrew Gillia saying, and I agree with this, Celtic were always in control, and they were. So I totally agree with that. It's only when I watched it back I realised how much they were in control. And we spoke about it. Haksabanović's chances, Matt O'Reilly's, they were all in the last 5 minutes plus added time. So could have finished 3-4-5-1 easily if they'd have took their chances. Chilwell saying Celtic are simply better in a position, including the bench. That's up for question, isn't it? But
like I know that we're obviously biased being on a we are just Celtic focused, but when you do look at it, that I think there is only a couple of debates. I think Celtic are stronger in pretty much every position.
Yeah,
I don't mean that as flippant as what it might sound, but I do think a Celtic team are that good and that deep. That's not to say that they can't be beaten in any given day. St Mirren proved that that's the case, and a derby is always a derby at the end of the day. But I don't think Chilwell's over-egging that at all. I think Celtic are probably better in pretty much every position.
Off the top of my head, I would need to sit down and kind of analyse that and look at that. But we're very Celtic-centric, so we watch
Alan Morrison, right? Alan Morrison done it in the lead up to the cup final, and to be fair, when it came to the stats, he used the stats bomb data for it, and it was, I think, out of the regular 11 starters, I think it was like 7-4 Celtic, I think, in terms of stats bomb data. But even that, and Alan says himself, doesn't tell the whole story, really.
Sure.
It depends what kind of data you're looking at and all that kind of stuff and what you're wanting from a player first and foremost. But so there is that on the site if you want to look at a direct comparison. But I don't think he's over-egging that Chilwell.
I don't think he's wide of the mark at all. That's just something I would need to sort of have a look at myself.
Charlie McGarvey saying Easter Sunday's always a big day. He's referring, of course, to the fact that derby is, it's on the Saturday, but Easter Sunday's the day after. And then a couple of weeks later, 3 weeks later, they're playing that semi-final. So,
fair enough. Now, Sean, yesterday, and I wrote about it for the newsletter, you probably got it all in your inbox, and it's on the site today. It was the anniversary of the death of Celtic's greatest ever footballer, as voted by the supporters, Jimmy Johnston, and just wanted to see if a few of the commenters can put in their memories of Jimmy Johnston, if they wanted to. My father assures me that he was wonderful, although my father's hero is and always will be Bobby Murdoch. But, and I wrote in the piece that of all the honours that Jinky won that night, it meant the most to him.
I didn't realise, Tony, that you were there that night.
Until
you wrote it.
Yeah, he was just so humble and just so grateful, and he just stood at one point and looking around, and the adulation and the ovation that he got, and the cheer that went up when Jimmy Johnston was announced as the greatest Celtic player ever. It was just fitting, and just that as I said in the piece as well, there's no amount of cine footage can do him justice. Those who were there, and I said that as well. Lucky them that got to see Jinky. What a great piece you wrote, Tony. Me, man, something else. Thank you, 420 somewhere.
17 years it is, Tony. 17 years gone yesterday. I remember actually, because I was like, it was just videos and VHS tapes and all that kind of stuff that I would have watched at him. And the Lord of the Wing documentary I probably wore that DVD out, the Peter Mullen one, the one where he sings Dirty Old Town with Jim Kerr. I actually embedded that video into the article that goes on the website. But what 420 somewhere's referring to is he might have saw it last night with the newsletter, which is free, and then it went on the website this morning. Goes out around tea time each weeknight, Tony. The newsletter, it's various topics from things honouring legends to sometimes there's quirky things like you had a train spotting Archie McPherson interview, which has nothing really to do with Celtic, but I'm a sucker for train spotting, so I thought, right, we'll get that for a newsletter. Well worth a read. And I mean, as I say, 17 years gone yesterday, and I remember it must have been, I don't know, second period or something, first period, second period in admin in high school, Notre Dame Greenock. And probably, must have not been doing my work if I was on BBC website, but I remember seeing it on the BBC website, and must have left the web page up too long. The teacher's like, that's not your work. I'm like, oh, Miss Jimmy Johnston's died. She was a Celtic fan. She's like, oh, just walked away and never got into trouble for it or anything. So, by 2006.
Just, as I say, for those who were fortunate enough to see him in the flesh, I do envy them. And, you know, we've got, as I say, we've got all the, Steve McGrory there. Morning, Steve, how you doing? Blessed to see Jenky in his prime. May he rest in peace, indeed. And the statue's just, it does encapsulate him, doesn't it? The one at the Celtic Park with the shoulder drop, ball at his feet, about to take somebody on. But probably the Rangers defence, Sean. Not a Terry Cooper from Leeds, you name them.
The Terry Cooper one, I like that. I used that in the headline, Tony, the twisted for Terry Cooper. Yeah,
you know, and to the point where he was such a phenomenon that, I mean, they produce a Fabergé egg in his honour. I mean, unbelievable stuff. And Robert Duvall, famous Hollywood actor, calls his dog Jinky, because when he was filming A Shot at Glory in Scotland, he met Jinky and he said he was the most fabulous character. And I realised that if you go in on YouTube and you key in Robert Duvall and Jinky Johnson, he tells another story that they had a night out and obviously he had a good bucket and he put him in a taxi and he says look after this guy. He says he's like Jesus Christ, and the taxi driver says he's more important than Jesus Christ. And it's a brilliant line, you know. It's just, you know, just encapsulates the way Celtic supporters felt about a man who was voted the greatest ever player in the history of the club, and that's some accolade. And I think that's why that night, I think everybody was in tears when it was wee Jinky. Just like, I mean, that'll live with me forever as well. That rapturous reception that he got in the hall was just wonderful. And typical Jinky says, I'd like to dedicate this to Bobby Murdoch.
Aye.
So it was, so it's, I have a wee read at that, jog some memories, and just enjoy it.
Before we move on to the other piece that you've written, I'm going to put this up from Brown Warrior because I like it. I always forget about it until somebody mentions it, but it says when Jinky and Bertie were getting interviewed in a taxi around about the 90s before an Old Firm game, the interviewer says, what would the score be between the Lions and the current Rangers team? And Bertie Auld replied, 3-1 to us, but remember, we're on our 50s now.
Brilliant from Bertie. Just always, he was a force of nature as well. Seen Jimmy from 62 to 72, lucky me. Lucky you, Jackie, indeed. Hope you enjoyed it. Still talk about it to this day. Keeps their memory and their legend alive. Now, Sean, there's another piece on the website today, which you might enjoy, and it's the
Admiral. Enjoy. It was
the Admiral Bar closed its doors on Saturday there, March the 11th. They're moving into new premises just down the road, actually down the street. They're taking over the Woods Bar. They're now going to call it Admiral Woods. But I spoke to one of the owners, Dave Ross, because he did an article saying that there was a lot of Celtic celebrations in there. So I called him up and asked him to talk us through it. And there's some wonderful stuff in there about Dion Dublin playing saxophone and Roy Keane on the Red Bull and his request to Dave before he left the premises. You'll enjoy it. It's great knockabout stuff, isn't it, Sean?
It was class. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's Dave Ross, as you say, DJ. A lot, especially if you're from Glasgow, a lot of you will know the Admiral Bar. You might know Dave Ross himself, but it's a Celtic friendly bar, certainly. And fantastic tales he talks about. It starts in 2006. CIS Cup final after that when Gordon Strachan's team comes in, and it's there's some cracking Celtic related stories which Tony referenced there, but may or may not include a Red Bull buzzing Roy Keane demanding the Soldier song over the sound system, and Big Dion Dublin whipping out a saxophone. So it's well worth a read. It's already proven quite popular, and I'm not surprised. It's a nice wee quirky tale of kind of maybe Celtic related, but not really to do with the football. So I think people quite like it. And on that note, sorry, Tony, on you go.
I was going to thank Dave Ross for his time, for giving up his time and talking to me about that, because, as I say, something quirky, something a bit different, something Celtic related, but not necessarily, as you say, to do with the football, but just a nice wee insight into what happens after cup finals and stuff, and how the players celebrate and wind down.
Got to say that the Admiral Bar post-match or post-final compared to the Radisson Red Sky Bar and all that is slightly different, isn't it? Slightly different back then. Arthur Boric features as you expect it would. But on that note, if you are a Glasgow City Centre regular, you'll know the Admiral, and you probably will know that it's shut down. But as Tony said, they've taken over the Woods Bar, which is just along the road, and that actually opens this Friday, Tony, St Patrick's Day, doesn't it?
It opens on Friday, St Patrick's Day. March
details of that are in the piece.
Yeah, because they're keeping the same chefs, the same menu, same bar staff. So basically, they're just, as Dave Ross succinctly put it, we're just basically moving 150 yards up the road. But no, thanks to Dave for that. And listen, have a read at that. You'll enjoy it. There's some quirky stuff there. I'll give you a wee laugh as well. So there you go. Well, Sean, that's 37 minutes of a dog-interrupted briefing. But there you go. My apologies again for that. I just forgot I'd locked the door, but there you have it. These things happen, don't they? But yep, Celtic draw Rangers in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. Possible obstacle to a potential treble, Sean. We shall wait and see. It'll all come out in the wash. There'll be plenty of time to talk about that. Wee jinky piece. If you want to read that on the website, the Admiral Bar piece, you know where to go. And before we go, just ask you again, thank you to everybody for your comments and your contributions today. We always enjoy it. But you haven't already hit that subscribe button. It costs you £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything that's written on the website, all for the click of a button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. We also say thank you to SENECA, Celtic Way Morning Briefing, now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And as you know, SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Thank you, Sean, for your contribution today. First class as always. You even dug me out a hole with the elevator stats when he disappeared to deal with.
Is that a pun? Dug you out a hole for your dug?
No pun intended, but now you say it. Yeah, indeed. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow for hopefully another wonderful Wednesday as we count down to the Hibs game on Saturday. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that today, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Cheers, Sean. Take care.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Trips.